Welcome to Experience This, episode 27. My name is Christian Watts, founder and CEO of Magpie Travel. Delighted to be here with my esteemed hosts. First of all, Laurie.
Hey everyone, good to be back after a little time away. I'm Laurie Timoney with Virgin Experience Gifts.
Hey, welcome to Experience This. It's a great podcast with my two friends here, Christian and Laurie. I'm Bruce Razard, one of the co-founders of Arrival.
So I think we're going to talk today about different types of experiences, right? So we're in this industry and we've got this, Arrival says it's a $250 billion industry. Airbnb says it's a 1.3 trillion. Whatever these numbers are, they don't matter. But we're trying to work out what defines this industry, what types of experiences. One of the things I've been thinking, we had a recent conversation, we've been around a while. Are we getting stuck in the same old circles? We go to the IPWs and WTMs and ITBs, and it's the same attractions and tour companies that have been around forever. And are we missing this new sort of style of experiences? This kind of, to me, goes back to the Airbnb experiences discussion, which we've had all the time, the goat yoga versus the hop on, hop off, where hop on, hop off's the traditional, it's been there a long time, and goat yoga is what the Gen Zs and all these young people are doing. Are we missing something there? Is this where it's going? And are we not seeing that? Or Laurie, what are your thoughts on where this industry's going, just as a sort of overall?
Yeah, I think that, first of all, I noticed you put yourself in the camp of not the young people, Christian. I mean, that's just not, you don't want to start out that way.
I didn't mean to do that, no.
So I am involved pretty much on a day-to-day basis in looking at various types of experiences and what constitutes an experience, so to speak. Come from the day of, an attraction was an experience, and that could be a museum visit. It could be a visit to Madame Tussauds. It could be, an observation deck. And then you had your tour companies, whether they be bus companies or walking tour companies. And we've seen that really change in regard to, tourism more immersive now. Attractions tend to be more immersive now. But what I am seeing is I feel like a whole shift in the experiences industry where things that I never actually even thought were experiences are experiences. And that could be things like, musical events, concert events, sporting events. It could be workshops, classes, make your own this, do it yourself. Things that I'm seeing now are pop-up experience, which are basically short-term experiences. And I'm finding more and more that the younger generation is looking for something they can be completely immersed in. And that may not be your standard attraction or your standard tour. So I do think that this industry is changing, and I think it's going to continue to just encompass a much wider range of opportunity than it ever has before.
Well, of course, this industry is constantly changing, right? It's the experiences industry, which is still fresh and new. I mean, it wasn't more than 5 years ago we called it tours and activities. Oh, and by the way, there's these attractions here. What do you mean by a pop-up experience, Laurie?
So that would be something that is introduced, like, let's say the Friends experience in New York City. Now that ended up hanging around a long time, but it was meant to be kind of a temporary experience, so to speak. You have maybe 3 months of time that it's available to you. It's kind of the idea of doing pop-up restaurants, right? Pop-up dining. Pop-up means basically you're creating something where there really wasn't a space for it necessarily, but you're going to make a space for it. It's going to happen. And that could be a lot of different things. I've seen it really happening all over the country. I'm dealing a lot with New York right now, so I'm just seeing quite a bit of it happening there. And one of the companies that engages in pop-up experiences to a big degree right now is Fever. Happened to be one of the online travel agencies that is really involved in pop-up experiences. Oh, here we are. So you can see that if you look at, as well as the fact, Bruce, one of the other things you can see with Fever is they're very big in originals. So they have their own events or their own experiences that you're not going to find with anybody else. So that's obviously, that we can talk about Get Your Guide originals. I'm sure they're probably going to be looking to do something similar there. Another company that is doing a lot of this right now, that especially for New York City, is Bucket Listers. Bucket Listers NYC. They have a very similar approach. You can see these exhibitions that you never probably ever heard of, right? Small is Beautiful miniature art exhibition. Who ever heard of that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, Laurie, that the first one you mentioned was Friends, right? So I think I believe the Museum of Ice Cream was the first in this space, and that's been a while now. But they were basically, they still are a selfie museum for teenage girls. But then the first one you mentioned was the Friends exhibit, which I don't imagine is Gen Zers, right? They probably don't know what Friends is.
Yeah, more millennials.
So this seems to be more mainstream now for all ages.
What do you think were the most, like, give a couple examples of really successful pop-ups that you've seen out
Museum
there?
of Ice Cream and the Color Factory. Those are the.
So they were so
the
successful they became permanent attractions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that the definition of success for a pop-up?
Yeah, but you're no longer a pop-up. I guess so. Yeah.
Well, either that or you can take it and move it to a different city. So I've seen that as well, where they'll, come in for a period of time and, get a lot of buzz happening and then move it along to a different city and do the same thing there. I mean, one of the things about a pop-up that's kind of cool is that you present demand, right? Because, oh my gosh, it's only going to be here for 2 or 3 months. So I better go now because I'm going to miss it if I don't. And eventually, maybe they would consider making it a permanent exhibit, but there's something about that sort of energy behind, I have to get there now.
Hello, it's Marika from the Von Mack Agency here with your Tourism Marketing Half Minute. Let's get a little experimental today. Take a moment to think about the last time your marketing team spent time in discovery. Was it yesterday? Or maybe never? While it may seem silly to attribute resources to the unknown, it is an important element of getting ahead. So keep on trend and ask your marketing team to secret shop your competitors and brainstorm from it. Or do some guerrilla marketing, maybe even fully embrace TikTok. Experiments like these always tend to deliver something, from great nuggets of info to great fun.
Well, let's talk about that. And, the business that we're all in is so much more traditional. It seems strange to say we're in this traditional business, but we are, right? Where we're working with these traditional distributors, top of the funnel, Viator, Get Your Guide, To Amusement, who are aggregating all this content that is what I'm calling traditional content. Are they selling pop-ups, for example?
Well, I was just on Get Your Guide, which I haven't looked at for a little while. Homepage of Get Your Guide now has got tabs, and the first tab is sports. So it's got sports, culture, food, nature. I don't even know where the traditional stuff is. And the number one thing is the McLaren experience. We might all have different versions. I suspect not. I suspect they don't do different versions. Yeah, I think we're all getting the same view. So what's going on here? There's the 4 tabs: sports, culture, food, nature. Where's the Empire State Building? Where's the hop on, hop off?
Well,
whatever?
this speaks volumes right here to what we are talking about.
Right.
They're not going to waste valuable real estate on their page unless they're getting a huge amount of traction. These are all really fresh ideas. They're really interesting. They're what people are looking for. But
Well,
look, top sites in New York City. I
I-
mean, there's Statue of Liberty. I mean,
Well, yeah, hold
so
on. This is very different.
I'd push back on that.
And I am too, because you came to homepage. I mean, who goes to getyourguide.com homepage and all of a sudden you're getting thrown all these things from all over the world? I don't know when I'm going, where I'm going, who I'm going, blah, blah, blah. Or
Right.
I go to Google and I say I'm going to, things to do in New York, and Get Your Guide or Viator is always number one. And I click in and I land on this page, the New York page. And then
The traditional.
I don't see all the cool stuff anymore, right? I see top sites, right? There's
well,
Right,
no,
but
it's true.
That's what I'm trying to say is I think, yeah, these are the sites that are selling. The homepage, ironically, they get to mess around with a little bit. The fact they've only got those 4 tabs, none of which are mainstream, I think they do get to play around a little bit with the homepage. But the fact that they're doing that on their homepage looks like they're trying to get into this space and trying to broaden their reach.
I agree. I think they're trying to do that, and I think we can talk originals as well, which they're resurfacing with again. I want to talk real quickly about tickets, just because it's something I've been looking at a lot, especially sports tickets and how that might look. And I clicked on tickets and I didn't get to tickets, and I don't want to waste your time. Oh no, entry tickets. Yeah. These are all attraction entry tickets.
But you're looking at sports tickets, Bruce, or what tickets are you looking at?
So Get Your Guide and Viator both recently added sports tickets to what they offer. And I think that's very interesting. And something I'm going to have a panel about at Arrival, although there must be a sub nav here to get the sports tickets, and my share is interrupting that. So I apologize. Game tickets, here it is. Okay, I was able to pretty easily navigate to, I want to go to a Yankees game. And I can buy a ticket.
You probably don't right now, actually, but yeah.
I actually will only want to go to the Yankees game to watch them lose, but that's a whole different point. Hope my friends at the Yankees didn't hear that. I can now buy Yankees tickets on Get Your Guide. That did not work 2 years ago.
Let's try it.
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting. So
check availability, because
check availability. I got to find a game day. So Sunday's a game day. Check availability. There's plenty of availability. Oh, it's not availability. It's not available. I was going to say there's probably plenty of availability because they stink, but
this for me, this is a good direction. This is what I think customers want, right? They want to be able to go to one site and book everything, and that's kind of the point here. Is a sports ticket is just as much an experience as the hop on hop off bus tour, and this is how people actually travel.
And this is really interesting here. I'm sorry to interrupt, but just because this is actually germane to the conversation we're going to have at Arrival, like, why does everyone else care? In other words, all the other tour and activities operators and attractions in New York, why do they care that I can now buy a New York Yankees ticket on Get Your Guide? And this, I now have bought a ticket. It's in my cart, right? This is why I care. If I am hop on, hop off, scooter tours, blah, blah, blah. Look how much Get Your Guide put in front of me in New York of other things to do if I'm coming in to buy a ticket. It's eyeballs.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that, it's always good to know what the opportunity is for collaboration. Who knows? Maybe you're somebody in the neighborhood of the Yankees, and now you want to collaborate with the Yankees because you realize that there's, an opportunity there to be sold in places that you've never been sold before. Or, I think this is really interesting what happened here with the sporting, because if I remember correctly, it was probably maybe 3 to 5 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, actually, where, who is it? Jason from MLB. Okay. He was at Arrival. Justin, excuse me. Sorry about that, Justin. Sat next to him. He was just cracking the nut, so to speak.
Justin is in charge of trying to figure out tourism for Major League Baseball. Yeah,
exactly. And I have to say that he moved pretty quickly on that, because he sort of a year ago was like, got to convince these guys they need to do it. Well, here he is. And now, Bruce, you were just at IPW. You saw how many
he brought over a dozen of the individual teams with him to IPW. Yeah,
A
which is
ton
great.
of teams. And now they are very much engaged in the travel space. It's not just Viator and Get Your Guide. There are other companies he's working with. But for sure, one of the things I think this conversation says to me is I need to, if I'm an OTA, I need to be opening my eyes. Like, what else should I be selling?
Yeah.
If I'm not
Absolutely.
selling this, I need to be selling it. How do I go find that stuff? And if you are an attraction on the ground or a tour company on the ground, who are businesses that you could be collaborating with? Is there an opportunity for you to up level, and turn into something that is unique or
If
whatever?
I'm a New York City walking tour operator that does, a tour of Greenwich Village, maybe there's a food element, I get up to Times Square. It would be great that I could add, Yankees game in the evening as part of that tour, right?
So let me push back on that argument, which I just made the other argument a minute ago. As a consumer, I do expect, as a consumer, I don't know how this industry works. I do expect to go to a single site and book a Yankees game and a hop on a puff and the Museum of Ice Cream. But that's not how the industry works. It never has, especially with sports. Sports has always been very separate. But maybe that's okay. Because actually, if I go to would I go to Get Your Guide to buy a Yankees ticket? I know the industry and I wouldn't. Even if I could, I would go to StubHub or somewhere else because I think I'll get more choice of seats and this or that and everything else. But maybe that's okay. Maybe buying sports tickets over here and buying attractions over here is the way. So what I'm saying
it depends on how marketing
not going in the right direction.
Merchandising. There's so many issues. Here's one example. Do you both know, and I'm sure, Lori, you're less than a year out of Go City, or no, 2 years out of Go City, right? I don't know if you're aware of this, Christian, but the Go City Pass in New York now includes the New York Yankees. So you're paying what, $100, $125 for Go City Pass to see the Statue of Liberty and the Empire State Building.
The stadium tour.
No, it's a ticket to a game. Now,
they've been doing that with the Red Sox for years.
They've sold
now,
tens
actually.
of thousands of tickets this year that they didn't sell last year because of the deal with City Pass, or Go City, excuse me. That's just another distributor who's figured out a way to take advantage of having Yankees in their offering. So why won't others catch on? They will. The whole point was, in the past, there was no way to do that. But now there are channel managers who are connecting the ticket master to a channel manager to the Get Your Guides and Viators of the world.
I think it's still very difficult. I think that's really one of the biggest challenges is the tech piece of it, the live ticketing, or if you don't have the ability to, have a seat map or whatever, that you have to have a way of pricing it out and selling it, breaking down categories, whatever you have to do, and how do you deliver that ticket. I think that piece of it is probably the most challenging. And it isn't just with sports, it's with some of these pop-up experiences. Thing about pop-ups is that they're not going to start a relationship with a million OTAs.
No.
Why would they, right? They're not going to be there long enough. It takes forever. It takes months to get this kind of stuff going. So how does a company that is, wants to sell that experience, how do they do it? If let's say it's the Friends experience, they don't work with very many OTAs.
So how is a pop-up experience even part of our business, really?
We're the experiences industry. Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah, just because they're not showing up.
Only one of you at a time can yell at me. Go ahead.
It's much better when we both yell at the same time. But just because they're not going to the same trade shows, they're looking at the trade shows thinking, "Oh, that's nice."
Not the trade show, but our business is built on our distribution networks and tech, and otherwise just walk into a pop-up.
Who said it is, Bruce?
Yeah, 80% of it is 80%, and then the other it's 95%. But now they're Airbnb wasn't a thing. No one talked about it. It was only hotels. And now Airbnb is a huge part of the market share.
Here's the
They
thing we have
found
to
their own
figure
niche.
out. We have to figure out how to make it available to more people. That's the thing we have to do. Not to say that, oh, they're not part of our industry. No, they're part of our industry. So are restaurants part of our
Now
industry.
figure it out. It was a leading question, right? Like, let's figure it out. Why aren't restaurants part of experiences industry? Like, of course they are.
Very complicated to sell a restaurant.
Yeah.
Very, very complicated. But it's not to say it can't happen. It's just that there has to be, you know, some integration with Open Table, and then there has to be a payment solution that goes along with that, not just a reservation solution. And there's all different reasons why restaurants are not being sold through your traditional travel channels. But guess what? Every single person who visits any city in the world is eating. So what an opportunity. And who's doing that? Well,
Right.
TripAdvisor, you can go on TripAdvisor and book a table through Open Table and then get an experience. But is it really a seamless?
Google Maps. I mean, Google Maps owns this, right? This is the future. It's going to end up somewhere on Google Maps. That's what we all use.
You know what? I want a
That's how you
future
find
show
the
on
restaurants.
Google Maps, Christian, because I think that there's a lot of people, myself included, I really want to have you show us, like, what do you mean that they already kind of rule it? And I'm just pleading ignorant here of the way your perspective is related to experiences, especially, and how we can all use Google Maps more effectively.
No, I'm talking restaurants today, right? When you both go to a new city, I assume, and you look for a restaurant, you go to Google Maps.
Never.
You don't?
No.
I mean, I only go to Google Maps when I have to find directions to somewhere. I don't actually.
Right. I've gone to Google.
Right, so if I was talking to
find
somebody,
the restaurant. Oh, okay, I like that restaurant. Get directions.
Right. So maybe if I was talking to somebody a bit more sort of with it, for technology and a bit younger,
right,
they would start with Google Maps. But you guys are both going to Yelp.
I mean, I know how to use Google, Christian.
Yellow Pages or something, but
I use the Yellow Pages. Yes.
Google is the kind of single source of truth for this stuff, right? Where Yelp would have been maybe 5-10 years ago, Google's got the reviews now. They've got the restaurants. They're doing very well.
I just don't start on maps. But anyway, let's keep going. Okay.
So I think restaurants are a different case, right? Restaurants are very, very different. But each of these niches, restaurants being one, sports being another, tours and activities being another, we've all spent the last 10, 20, 30, 100 years building our own niches, right? Our own systems, our own res techs. And nobody's sat and thought how they all going to work together. Yes, now we're talking about Octo and standardization. That's how these different niches can talk to each other. But that's not there yet. The hotel systems don't talk to the tours and activity systems. We're all stuck in these messes of tech. And even the startups in the space, the startups like Get Your Guide are not very fast at, you know, their tech's old now, right? They're not very quick at updating, moving with what's happening today. And it takes these big companies a long time to adapt. And it might take them 5 years to get sports down to find out that nobody wants to book sports on Get Your Guide. I'm not saying they will, I'm not saying they won't, but it might not work.
Well, we'll see, but it seems to me like they've just been growing this piece of their business more and more and more. I come across Get Your Guide all the time in terms of looking at research and new kinds of product and that sort of thing. I think the winners are going to be the businesses that can figure out how not only to sell this type of product, so it's obviously a variety of product, but how to sell it, how to work with the tech, and really how to, I mean, exclusives is huge. I think it's a great way to lock in customers, get customers, lock them in, and there's really only a handful of big companies out there that are doing that. And I think Get Your Guide is 100% going after that with this.
What are you're talking about? You said exclusives. So
Yeah, where they create their own product. They
So
create
you mean then
their
like
own,
a Get Your Guide Originals product?
exactly. Or a Fever exclusive, for
Or
instance,
the
where
Fever
they
exclusive.
negotiate a deal directly with that, that concert or whatever. Obviously, you have to have enough bodies to move to do a deal like that with somebody, and not
But
everybody
what was the
has
CLook?
those kind
What
of
was the
numbers.
CLook and Taylor Swift thing? Didn't they buy out a
I
couple of
believe
stadiums?
they bought a stadium worth of tickets. I believe so. We should check. Like 50,000 tickets, so they had exclusive access to that concert, and then they
So
went
that's
and
what.
sold it out.
Yeah, that's what Laurie said. If you own the inventory of a Taylor Swift concert, you're branded, and that's everyone has to come to your brand.
I'll look that up while we're talking. Do you guys want to talk for a minute about originals? Do you have enough info about what the rebrand, not the rebrand, but the refresh of originals is that was mentioned in the article with Johannes this past week? No.
I mean, no,
I didn't
not
read it.
really.
Okay, so we should learn more about that, and then
I've been
Yeah.
at TechCrunch Disrupt, Bruce. You'll be happy to know, just doing nothing but AI all week.
you mean that conference
So
where you had to wait 2.5 hours to register?
1.5 hours to get my badge. Never seen
Wow.
anything like it. And I asked them what happened, and they said, "Oh, well, we didn't expect everyone to arrive at the same time." Isn't this a conference? Doesn't everybody arrive at the same time? Anyway.
I guess they really weren't using their resources to figure out what each person was going to be doing. They should have known when everyone was going to arrive, right?
They could have forecast that, but
You would think we kind of know when people are coming in general. So here is the CLook
yeah,
Taylor
cool.
Swift connection. It doesn't look like, I would say this doesn't look like they bought every seat necessarily, but they probably bought a lot of seats,
Yeah,
and now they're building packages. Is what CLook
so we bought into their PR. We think they bought the whole stadium, whereas they bought 100. They bought a block of 100 tickets.
They bought 100. Like, who knows, right? And we could ask them. And then they packaged it, and you get 2 concert tickets and a room night for $542. Right?
That's good. That's cheap for Taylor Swift.
That's actually very, very cheap. Yeah.
Choose from 29 hotels. So CLook is now they're in the hotel business. I mean, are they? We've talked about this. Are they a super app already?
No, that doesn't mean they're a super app because they added another type of product. That's
no, not
so
because
far
of this.
from
I'm talking about hotel. I think they're selling flights, transfers.
So in that article, Bruce, one of the things that I noted was that Johannes said something about, we're not into staycations. Like CLook, and this was in relation to APAC and how they're going to treat APAC. And that really gave me the impression, and I think I kind of knew it anyway, that CLook is really addressing the local market in a lot of ways, and they're addressing this whole idea of staycations. Where they're located and where some of their big cities are, like Singapore, Hong Kong, a lot of people do exactly that. And it sounds like maybe that's one of the things that CLook is going to be into more and more, is just really, they're marketing Asia. They're not necessarily, at one point CLook was going into the US. They started that. Europe. I don't know where they're at with those markets. I think
their strategy is going to be more, let's find partners in the US that are sending Americans in the current place of the US, or Europeans if they go to Europe, to Asia. We'll provide the product, but we'll get
your guide strategy.
Yeah,
get your guide strategy. Right. I agree. Sounds like that.
One other topic on this for a few minutes: local versus tourist. When we talk about our business, we really focus almost exclusively on travelers inbound, right, to the tourists. But our partners, the operators, are getting a shit ton of local visitors as well, and we don't pay much attention to them. That came up in a discussion we were having, pre-show. That a lot of these attractions, pop-ups, are set up just as much for the locals. Where does that fit in the whole experiences industry that we're part of?
I think the experiences industry for a very long time has been working with locals and has been working with the drive market. 100%. If you look at a city like New York, their greatest percentage of visitors are those that are coming within 2 to 4 hours of the destination. Everyone talks about the international market, and of course it's super important to a city like New York, but they talk about it a lot because that's the market they want, right? People spend more money, they stay longer, they eat more food, it's a great customer to have. But if you look at Florida, the number one market for Florida is Florida. California, same thing. New York, it's New York. Philadelphia, New Jersey, the drive market. So this is not anything new. There's
No, but I'm
nothing new
getting a
about
little
this
more
at
micro.
all.
The New York market for people who actually live in New York City. They're
Yeah.
not getting in a car. Like they're taking a subway to the local attraction.
Yeah, but I mean
That
that's nothing new
that's
about that.
fine.
That's been around forever. And yeah, it is a market that everybody should pay attention to because it's a very safe market.
But we don't talk about it.
I got two
I'm
things
not
to say on
sure.
this. One,
You're gonna yell at me again?
I agree with Laurie. It's been around forever. After 9/11, this was a huge push because we thought we might be only domestic for a long time. As an operator in a place like San Francisco, it's actually easier to go and find a travel agent, to go and find Qantas in Australia, to go and work with the big travel agents in the UK. They can send mass. It's quite difficult to reach, and it's expensive to reach the local market, right? Because you've got in the Bay Area, you've got 7 million people. How do I talk to them? What am I supposed to do? Radio or it's expensive. It's very hard to find your target market. The other thing I want to say, and I think this is not ever spoken about, but the sales and marketing director at these boat companies and bike companies and whatever, they like going to London every year for WTM. They like a trip to Australia to do a sales mission. They drive a lot of this market, and they tell the companies we need to do these 10 sales missions every year and go to these 5 trade shows, and that's the nice life.
Yeah,
for them,
but I
and it
don't think
works.
that's the reason why people
It's a
talk
factor.
about it more.
Really?
Yes, I
a
mean,
factor.
yes, it is a factor, but I don't
Huh.
think it's a big factor. I think that if a company couldn't afford it, it wouldn't even be a thing. But I do think that it is. I mean, I feel like it's 100% the case that a customer coming from outside of the area is going to spend more money than a local, right? A local is going to go and do a tour and probably go home that night, or eat and go home that night, or whatever. You might stay one night if they're like within driving distance, but an international traveler or even a far-flung domestic traveler is going to stay in the destination, spend money in the hotels, spend money in the restaurants. They're the customer that you want for that reason. But it's just all about diversification. You have to have all kinds of different customers to meet different needs. But the domestic market or even the local market, that's been around forever. And in terms of getting them, I think it's easier to get them now than it ever has been, because now we have things like Instagram, TikTok. If you are investing in that, which everyone is now and should be, then you're reaching everyone, whether it's a local or not a local or whatever. So I think there's an opportunity that probably wasn't necessarily as much the case years ago.
Yeah, Museum of Ice Cream, I would guess is 90 or was 90 something percent Instagram and 90%
Probably.
local.
So listen, we're short on time. I want to do a very, very quick future coming soon. Our next show, we have a really cool special guest, Klaus Rosted. He's the one of the founders and the director of the College of Extraordinary Experiences, which is related to what we all do and think about every day. And he has a very different take on it, related to transformational travel. So the next session at Experience This is going to be with Klaus. We're going to talk about some transformational travel. Could you guys tell me what you think of when you hear transformational travel?
Well, I think that transformational travel is almost, I mean, I feel like travel is transformational. Maybe not for everyone, but probably for most people. I think it's probably one of the most transformational things that that is out there is travel. But I also think the opportunities to grow and change have been around for a long time as well. I mean, you've had a lot of educational travel companies, nature travel companies. I mean, it's all different. People have been experiencing transformation through travel for years, but we're finally just talking more about it, putting a name to it. And I think that sometimes is okay. We don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time, but maybe just calling it out, spending more time thinking about it. And then maybe as a result of that, there'll be a better opportunity to experience transformational travel. So that's kind of what I think about it.
Yeah, it's definitely always been around, but maybe the niche is a choice to go on a trip for trying. I've had a big life event, therefore I'm going to do a trip to India to go and find myself and all this stuff. Maybe that's what it means. It's a reason to book the travel rather than I did all this travel and this amazing thing happened. Maybe it's a choice to go and sort of transform myself as part of a trip. I've had this argument on LinkedIn with people, and some people are trying to push that all travel is transformational and all has to be all this meaningful, this and that. And I'm just saying a lot of people just go to Vegas for the weekend and drink too much. And that doesn't always need to be transformational. That's a big part of it is the biggest part of travel. So
although if you watch that movie Hangover, I mean, that was a transformational experience.
Right. They could be the most transformational trips, I guess.
Well, I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation with Klaus next week, and he might have a different definition because both of you are saying, yeah, it's kind of what we've all been doing when we travel. I'm not sure I necessarily think of it the same way, but
not always though, Bruce, right? It's not always.
Well, no, I mean, although also every day that I go on a trip to go skiing, it's transformational for me. Mind, body, soul.
Transformational skiing. Is that the next?
Yeah.
No, I
just
get
like
you're skiing with Bruce.
Just like Drew Patterson, who started the company. I forget the name of it. I should have it. Thermal, where you go on a 7-day surf vacation with a rock star from the surfing world. Is that transformative for you because you're in Costa Rica, you're with some rock star from the surfing world who's teaching you how to surf. Every vacation you take from then on, you might say, I'm going surfing. To me, that's a little closer to like a transformational experience.
Everybody has their own transformational experiences. It's pretty hard to measure that, but I think it's a good thing. I'm into it.
Yeah.
All right.
Looking forward to that show.
Yeah.
I think we're going to wrap for today. So thanks, guys. And we'll see you next time.
All right.
Great. All right. Thanks, guys.